A test match day from a different time. It's more slow crawl than Bazball, as England, after opting to bat first, have one of their slowest days of this whole Bazball era. What does Sanjay Manjrekar make of this rather intriguing day? Let's put the question to him. Thank you, Sanjay, for your time.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's called block ball, this new approach of England. And who knows, if they get a favourable result, that might be the new era we might enter with English cricket. But it's something that I can relate to, blocking balls. But as far as the match is concerned, clearly the pressure has got to Ben Stokes. More than how they batted and the overall approach, what they did after winning the toss. Yeah. On a ground where bowling first has actually got more winning results. So pressure on Ben Stokes, and all other things that have followed has a lot to do with the pitch conditions and general sort of cricketing conditions today.
Yeah, it's only the second time in 12 home tests since the Bazball era began in June 2022 that England have opted to bat after winning a toss. And since you mentioned pressure, I'm looking at the correlation. That only other game was the first game of an Ashes, which we know is always high pressure for England. So is that perhaps a great stamp on this, a great stamp of approval on Shubman Gill's team?
Absolutely, and approval on Indian cricket as well. Because earlier, obviously, when India was an emerging nation, they weren't too keen to host India, but they would still host India, which was a good thing. But now, not only does India travel more to places like Australia, England, there's more interest in Indian cricket purely because Indian cricket is challenging teams like Australia in their own backyard on the last two trips, not the last Border Gavaskar Trophy, and in England as well. And this is just unbelievable that we are talking about this team without, three key players, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli and Mohammad Shami, competing in this fashion. Even this comeback with, a couple of wickets of Nitish Kumar Reddy and then Jadeja and Bumrah is still, pretty impressive.
So let's get into some of those individual facets, and where better to begin than Nitish Kumar Reddy. We've been wondering how much of an all-rounder is Nitish Kumar Reddy based on the very little bowling he's got in his 6 previous tests, but comes in right after the drinks break and strikes.
Yes, and I'm hoping that that instills some confidence in his batting, because I think there is something there in his batting. Twin failures in the last test never helped somebody who's searching for self-confidence as a batter. Now, what he did, was quite simple. He bowled within his limitations, and it's not like he's got a huge range. So he just stuck to what he can do best, which is just releasing the ball on line. He was a bit lucky with Ben Duckett. But just those 2 wickets is not an indication of how Nitish Kumar Reddy bowled. Right through the day, he looked almost like India's best seam bowler. And that's saying something when you have Siraj, Akashdeep and Bumrah. He bowled in the way that suited the conditions best. I think Lords at this stage and generally has been a pitch which is best for guys who swing the ball, pitch it up, release the ball more than hit the deck kind of bowlers.
So then that perhaps takes us into the other facet of the day, because Akashdeep, the star of the last game, has been the only bowler who England have actually found runs comfortable to score against. Can you break it down? Why has a Nitish Kumar Reddy succeeded and Akashdeep, who we thought will be licking his lips for Lords, not done so?
One important reason for the first wicket was that, they fancied Nitish Kumar Reddy to get runs against him, and that's how the first wicket came along. And the second one was a beauty of a delivery, but Zach Crawley's defense is a problem. So those 2 wickets came his way, but generally in the way he's bowled, with him, renewed self-confidence, he just kept it simple. Because this guy doesn't have the kind of, track record or recent form that Akashdeep has had. I thought Akashdeep just was too eager, a common, mistake that bowlers make. He got 10 wickets in the last match, bowling first and conditions where he thought there would be some movement. And there was an attempt to get a wicket every ball. And what he then lost in the process was control and simplicity, which was his biggest weapon and the reason for his success in the last test match. Having said that, this is not a pitch where you can keep bowling and expect a ball to nip back and go crashing into the stumps. This is a difficult pitch to bowl wicket-taking deliveries on and to break through a good, sound defense, which was more coming from England, the defensive bat.
Unfortunately for India, those breakthroughs, the first set provided by Nitish Kumar Reddy, the next one right at the start of a new session from Ravindra Jadeja. And that wicket of Ollie Pope, it felt like Pope and Root were looking quite comfortable. Important moment in the day.
Yes, and this is what makes a great batter. If you look at the English scores, batters who've got out, they've got 20s, 30s, 40s. And why do certain batters average over 50 or over 45? Is that post lunch or post tea, they will start with the same kind of intensity as Joe Root has done. It was a typical shot played after a break. It was slightly different in the way Jadeja bowled it, because until then he had just attacked the stumps, which is Jadeja's way to do it, just off stump, just outside off. This was slightly tossed up, a little slower and a little wide. And this was a guy who just got sucked into it, with the confidence of having got 40 runs. And if that ball had come in the first session, when he was batting, or was it the second session, when he had got himself set, he would have played that okay. But after a break, that is what you need to sort of get back to the same mindset before the break. And that is not easy for everyone.
That particular over was only the third over of spin we saw in the day. And the first two had come right before tea.
Yeah.
Did you agree with the decision to not bring the spinners on until the 47th over?
I think everyone will agree that spin was introduced very late. And it's something that Shubman Gill must make a mental note of, how Jadeja came and struck in his very second over. Now Australia, with the kind of bowling attack, seam attack that they have, and in the past as well, during the Mitchell Johnson days, or Glenn McGrath days, they never kept that spinner of some quality out of the game for too long. I thought Gill went with the record of Lords, where 89% of the runs wickets are picked up by seamers, plus what the seamers had done in the last test. And he just went with that kind of mindset that the seamers will do the job. The lesson learned for him was that if the seamers are proving to be ineffective because of the conditions, sometimes you can just lose form. You must never forget about the two other bowlers who may not look likely to get wickets, but will get you wickets because they are pure bowlers. It's not like a wild card that you're playing. Two proper pure spinners, and you must learn to keep them around. The moment you find the seamers are ineffective, you don't have to stick with them hoping they'll get you wicket, because you've got two other options.
From an England batting perspective, one standout batter, that one batter who always makes runs against India, had a quiet start to the series. I heard you calling Joe Root a collector on the broadcast.
Chief collector.
Oh.
Yeah, I called him collector. Now I'm upgrading him to chief collector.
Tell us more about what makes him the chief collector.
Yeah, if you remember Tendulkar as well, in the last few years of his career, I mean, earlier when he started batting at 16, he wasn't a collector. He was like a dominator. But what was the name? He used to be called Master Blaster, if you remember. Then after that, of course, he matured, got experience, became a wise guy, and started collecting runs. So these are what great players do. This is what they do. Is once they get in, and Root knew that there wasn't going to be that kind of a Bumrah threat on this pitch, he started collecting runs. So it's never about trying to impress somebody with the kind of shots that they're playing and trying to prove to the bowler that I'm a very superior, opponent to you. Just about getting runs on the board, getting the big score. And that is what Sunil Gavaskar was master at. Brian Lara on a given day, Sachin Tendulkar, and we saw that with Joe Root. He just started collecting runs, and they are mostly by ones and twos. So if you look at the highlights package, you won't see too many, jaw-dropping shots or some breathtaking, batting display. He's just gone through the motions.
Yeah, just the 9 boundaries at the time the second new ball was taken. That's 80 overs into the day. So the chief collector, collecting runs, collecting records. This is his 103rd score of 50 or more in tests, only behind Sachin Tendulkar now. He's drawn level with Ricky Ponting and Jacques Kallis. Given the way this game is balanced after day one, no side has really run away with it, fair to say. So Joe Root holds fort. He holds key to the direction this game takes.
Yes, because there is, you can't still, no. I mean, when I'm thinking of Jamie Smith still, coming into bat, I think Chris Woakes will bat better on this pitch and contribute. So you can't rule out a big score, whether Joe Root is in or out. And India will be expected to get another big score with the kind of confidence that they have. Maybe one bowler who is new to this bowling attack, if he makes a difference. And Chris Woakes, because he has the bowling style for a typical Lord's day, that could just be in England's favour. But I still see with Joe Root, without Joe Root, England now getting a pretty big score. And it's the first time England have actually enjoyed this feeling of going into bat without knowing that the opposition has got 450 runs on the board.
Yeah. Have we seen enough on day one to have any gauge on what qualifies as an imposing first innings total, or what direction this game could take?
No, the way these two teams are playing, it's like a typical tennis match, with certain players. I'm not an expert in tennis, but, when they lose first two sets, it's never a guarantee about how the match is going to finish. So I believe it's the case with these two teams. It's a proper test match where in the first inning, it's just, one half of the match is over, and you can't draw too many conclusions from it. You can't rule out India again getting a big score. And if they do it yet again, it is just a mind-boggling Indian cricket story.
We did see the top seed in the women's singles go out after a rather seesawing semi-final today at Wimbledon. So let's see which way this seesaw of a test series goes. Thank you so much, Sanjay. We look forward to your company through this third test. Day one, even Stevens?